In today's day and age of repetitive motion activities in the workplace, workplace ergonomics have become even more important. And I have to say, there are companies out there that they spend thousands of dollars per employee on just making sure their workstation is set up properly for them. Now, I recognize not everybody that's watching this video tonight has $5,000 or $10,000 to spend on a setup. Many of us are working from home. Many of us have not an office location just in a corporate setting, but we also have that office setting inside of our house. For some of us, we've been doing it for a number of years, and we struggle. We struggle with the fact that we sit there and we do our work and we walk away beaten up, sore, achy, with headaches and all different types of symptoms. Your body literally screaming at you. And yet, day after day, we go back and we do the same thing again and again and again. And sometimes we've struggled with the fact that maybe there's something out there. Tonight's workshop, we're going to answer some of those questions. We're going to answer some of the questions on what you can do to help yourself. Because like anything else, I want to make sure that as we walk through this process, there's something tangible for you to be able to do to start to better understand how it is that you can help yourself. So workplace ergonomics, this is one of those things that it affects each and every one of us. And I don't care whether we're spending 5 minutes in front of a computer, on an iPad, or on our cell phone, or 10 hours a day. If we're not using these products correctly, then it's wrong, and it's going to produce damage for our system. You know, this picture that's up on the screen right now, it's simple, it's easy. This is about one of the most basic of diagrams to help people understand how to get themselves set up for success. But I'm going to tell you, there's a lot that goes into this. There's a lot that goes into just refining and getting yourself into the right place. We talk about it all the time that, you know, when we buy a cell phone, and I can remember getting my first cell phone, it was delivered as a present. Just handed to me. No instructions for how to use it. No instructions for, you know, how to know when to put it down or when to know, you know, where to position it. It was just handed to me. And you know, our kids, they have the same thing done. In fact, we don't even think about the cell phone. We don't think about the iPad or the Chromebook, whatever it might be. When they sit down at their school desks, they're just told to go and sit. Well, ergonomics is how we get ourselves into that proper position, how we set ourselves up to do the job that we're going to do. And today, yes, we're going to talk a lot about the electronics of things. But when we talk about ergonomics in the workplace, it doesn't have to just simply be with electronics in mind. It could be the chef in the kitchen, making sure that, you know, that countertop height is at that right level, making sure that the step is in that right place so that they're capable of altering the body weight and periodically shifting from side to side. But it's all those things in combination that allow them to get set up in that proper position. Today we're going to be tackling this because this is something that most all of us do. And in turn, you know, one of the really big things is us understanding that all of these ergonomics, all of these workstation setups require a proper amount of muscle balancing. And yes, you've heard me say before, muscles are stupid. They only do what the nerves tell them to do. But if we're not setting ourselves up for success and making sure that the right body parts are developed properly, then sadly we run that ability to create problems for ourselves. Now, I love this chart. This is a chart that shows up in, you know, chiropractic books and biomechanical books of all different types. And, you know, when we talk about posture, this is exactly what we want to see when we look at this. where we see the head right above the shoulder right above the hip, and right above the ankles. When you have your posture check done here at the Limerick Chiropractic Center, that is exactly what that digital picture is designed to reference. And that's exactly what we want to see. Now, unfortunately, when our muscles aren't balanced, we start seeing some of these other distortions, whether it's the sway back, whether it's that military back. You know, we have all different types of distortions when we look at these postures from the side. And when we have that proper posture, you're going to see these different muscle groups all firing simultaneously to help promote that upright posture. But when we start having that and developing those bad postures, we start accentuating, starting to make some of the muscle groups work even harder, but we also weaken other muscle groups. When we have what's called an anterior pelvic tilt. In fact, some of you out there, you remember that from us reviewing your x-rays. And if you don't know what that term is, we've done workshops on it. We'll continue to do workshops on it. But that anterior pelvic tilt, that just simply means that, hey, listen, you know, you've overdeveloped the quad muscles. You've gotten them too strong. And they're not balanced with the hamstrings and the glutes that are way weaker than they're supposed to. And it drives us into this position, that butt and belly syndrome. And like you can see here in these pictures, we've weakened those stomach muscles, we've weakened the hamstring muscles, and we've weakened the muscles between the shoulder blades. Many of you have been introduced to that very simple exercise of using the tubing. That simple exercise is designed to make sure that those muscles between the shoulder blades in that upper back stop that hunching moving forward. If you're not doing your exercises, if you're not doing that homework, let me tell you, that's the very first part of the ergonomics, this conversation. We could just stop here. We could stop with the fact that, you know, if in fact you're not doing those things, we just simply need to start from square one then. And that's simply what you can do, is make sure that you're developing those right parts in the right order. Getting checked. Simple and easy. If you're watching this at the Limerick and a patient at the Limerick Chiropractic Center, you've already done this. You've gotten checked. You've gotten to that place where, you know what, you've looked inside, you understand the mechanics of what's right and what's wrong, and we've recognized those things that need to be fixed and corrected. But if not, then listen, if you're watching this and you're not a patient, or you've never been under chiropractic care, the very first thing is to pause and get checked. I love this picture. Picture's worth 1,000 words. And whether we're talking about your workstation or whether we're talking about the structure inside your body, it's all the same. See, I love when you guys send me pictures of your workstation. Those pictures unravel the story of how you're setting yourselves up to do the jobs that you have to do. I love the fact that it gives us that moment to step back away from that environment and for you and I to look at, well, this is what you're doing. And 9 times out of 10, once you see what you're doing, it's easy for you to understand how to fix and correct, because we know where we need to go to get you to that better place. Now, obviously, there's no part of this picture that looks right. Absolutely not. This guy, you know, and you've seen people out and about, maybe in church, maybe at another workstation, maybe you've seen them, you know, in the library or in a bookstore doing this. Destroying the body with the position and setup. And we think, well, nobody would ever do that. Well, don't say that. Because we get to see this all the time. We get to see people do exactly that. In fact, even others, you know, who think that they've gotten themselves into a better position, the sad thing is, well, if it's not exactly right, then it's wrong. And in these type of situations, we're putting pressure and stress through our neck, our shoulders, the elbow, the forearm muscles, our fingers and wrists, besides the low back, the hips, and the knees. Listen, it's a domino effect. And every part of the body is involved in it. And this is why we encourage people simply to get checked and simply to review their ergonomics, because we know in the moment of getting it checked, it empowers you with that better information to ensure that you're making the better choices for yourself. I love the fact that Keeney has, written research on, the leading causes of death in the United States. And I dare say many of you out there wouldn't be thinking about ergonomics in the workplace producing a possibility of death. But let's be real. A sick posture leads to a sick spine and nervous system. And anybody who recognizes the bigness of the master system of their body, their nervous system, recognizes that if it's not working at that optimal level, then we are choosing an early demise because of it. And that's a choice each and every one of you has to make for yourself. Because the function of the spine and nervous system is consistent with the vitality of your life. We can't expect more out of life than what we're putting in to this body of ours. Now, yes, you can go to extremes. This happens to be one of those. And the really cool thing is you don't have to go to this extreme to get yourself into a better place. So as always, listen, we know what normal is. We know what that optimal is. I'm going to encourage you to do the next thing. Make sure that you're taking a picture. If you've never done this, stop and have somebody help you out. 2 pictures. One directly from behind, and then the other one from the side. In having those 2 pictures taken, you're going to send them to that email address, limerickchiropracticinfo@gmail.com, in order to submit it to Dr. Savage and I so that we can sit back and review that information and help you understand some of the things that need to be changed, need to be engaged. And here's the thing. With all of our videos, we ask you to do 3 things. Like, comment, and share. So today, I'm going to ask you to leave me a comment. What was the big takeaway? What's the thing that was impressed upon you in this brief conversation about workplace wellness and ergonomics? What's that thing that you would love to share with somebody else? Like this video. It helps to make sure that others in our community have the opportunity of seeing this come through more often. And then finally, share this. We all know somebody out there. In fact, a lot of you parents that are out there recognize that some of those pictures are exactly what you see your children doing. And I know kids are going to be kids. We were all kids at one time. We didn't want to necessarily hear from our parents that there's things that were right and wrong. But you know what? When you have that third party that gets to speak into this conversation, you get to introduce, hey, listen, this is something that I learned. Maybe you should spend just a few minutes, take a look at it. Now, maybe you're one of your kids, maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's a friend or a coworker. I'm not quite sure who it is. But what I do know is in the moment of sharing, we're thinking of more of helping others than just simply helping ourselves. And I know we're not here just for ourselves. We're here to uplift others in our community, and community starts at home. So I'm going to ask you to make sure that you're sharing this with your family, your friends, your coworkers, to ensure that they have the opportunity of making that better choice. I'm Dr. Joseph Baker from the Limerick Chiropractic Center.